Welcome to The Vital Vagina, where we delve into brave and crucial conversations about the womb and feminine power. This podcast is not just for people with vaginas. We all come from the womb, and there is much for everyone to learn from this place of deep wisdom. I'm your host, Dr. Danielle Cornelius. I'm a chiropractor and holistic pelvic care provider. I've been working in the feminine healing realm for nearly a decade, and I am honored to bring this work and these stories to light. Well, hello, Mona. Welcome to The Vital Vagina.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here at The Vital Vagina.
I really appreciate you being here for us. So for everyone who's listening, Mona Bowen is a friend of mine and colleague, and together we created a little diagram, I guess you could call it, for seed cycling. So why don't you tell us first, before we dig into what that really is and what it means, why don't you give us a little bit about you and a little bit about your history and what kind of brought us together?
Oh, okay. How to nutshell this, because I
it's a
never
lot.
really know how to describe myself.
I know you're one of those people that's like, you have lots of really cool tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, well, I do feel like a dilettante most of the time, but maybe one day I'll be an expert in one area. But I have I have a lot of knowledge in a lot of varied areas. But what applies directly to seed cycling is that I have had some major health issues in my life having to do with diet and nutrition, and it was really nobody's fault. I was born with a very severe allergy, and my parents were told food allergy. My parents were told that I would grow out of it, and indeed, I never did. But that allergy, I was continued to be fed that food. I should say it was dairy up until I started to get very, very sick every time I even basically looked at dairy when I was about 16, and which was interesting because both of my parents grew up on dairy farms, so that was not something that was on their radar at all. It was caused a lot of curiosity and doubt in my family. But in any event, I realized early on I had to go my own way when it came to nutrition, and consequently, I've had just kind of a really terrible immune system. So I've had to learn how to eat in a way that supported my body, to try to keep me as healthy as possible, because I do have a crappy immune system. So why give my immune system more to deal with is my attitude. I have an autoimmune disease too. I have celiac, so that's an autoimmune disease. It's not just a trendy thing. I have a trendy autoimmune disease, and
and it's not just the sensitivity either.
Oh no, I have the Big Daddy. I have the no fun Big Daddy one. So, I guess, let me just mention I do have a background in the cosmetic industry. I've been a makeup artist. I don't know that I call myself that anymore, but for going nigh on 20 years. And that sprang out of not just an interest in fashion and design, which I have, but that sprang out of having very, very terrible skin as a teenager, and mostly due to my diet, which was destroying my system. So it was, so yes, what you eat does show on your skin. So I, through the cosmetic industry, learning a lot about things like that, what goes into those products, putting beautiful things on beautiful people's skin, but realizing what was in those things were not necessarily things I would actually want to put on my own skin, created a crisis of conscience for me, I guess is the best way to put it. And I could no longer work in the traditional cosmetic industry. So I started to learn how to make my own. I started learning how to make my own products. So that's what I do. I make skincare for people, individuals, and for I do some private labeling and expanding that. But that's really fun, and I'm actually in the middle of a recipe right now as we talk. I've got some stuff on the stove melting. So
nice. You also have a background with health coaching and nutrition, correct?
I do. Yeah. So I think the natural outgrowth of being in the cosmetic industry as a makeup artist, I started to get my master's in counseling for various reasons, mostly due to the fact that I decided to move to the West Coast in the middle of that. I didn't finish my master's, although
Yeah.
I do look forward to revisiting that. I think it's an important thing that it's on my bucket list of things I'd like to accomplish. You don't become, as a makeup artist, you're doing a lot of therapy all day long. It's akin to bartenders and hairdressers, trust me.
Mhm.
And then because of that, my whole nutrition thing, realizing, how foods would affect not just my appearance, but my mood, I went to nutrition school. So there we go. I have all those things. They all
Yeah,
come
nice.
together in a weird package.
They really do though, because you brought up the good point about makeup, and that's something that we consume a lot of that. It goes internal, and we have to process, and um, we don't
Yes.
think about how we probably shouldn't put things on our skin that we wouldn't actually eat. I kind of feel
Well,
maybe not
for the
to that
most part,
extreme.
yes.
Yeah,
Not everything is absorbed, but there are numbers thrown out there that up to 60% of what you put on your skin is absorbed into your body. It's a very strange,
yeah, that's
it's
a
a very
lot.
strange thing. It is a lot. So, in the same way, we should look at the things we eat as the things that are building the building blocks of our whole system, our immune system, our new blood cells, are that oxygenate our whole bodies, or new skin cells. I mean, how do you heal a wound? How do you heal
Yeah,
a broken bone? How do you heal a sprain?
right.
What are you feeding your system with?
Yeah.
It's a really important thing, and it's very easy to lose sight of that because there's so much incredible food advertising, and there is just so much incredible food,
Yeah,
so but keep in mind that the food industry is geared toward making you buy food, not toward making you buy healthy foods.
yeah,
So it's the old standard of buy on the outside margins of the grocery store, as very,
yeah,
all that stuff. But that maybe is a whole other conversation we can have about a different kind of health. But
yeah,
but right now, we can talk about balancing our cycles, and we all
yeah.
have them,
Yes.
using nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, seed cycling is something that kind of drew the two of us together. So we first met, I think you might have just recently moved to Portland, and I
I did.
was doing those Women in Mindful Business networking
I was
events.
in the very first group with you that
That's
you and
right.
Shara started. It was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so fun. We met so many really amazing people, and that was like before. I've been looking at networking events lately and keep seeing like speed dating networking, and that's kind of what we did. And I was like, I sent a text to Sharon and I was like, we did it first.
You
There's
did.
so many people doing those types of events, and it was really fun. And I met several people from that I'm still really connected to, so I'm grateful about that. But that's a little bit of a side note. You and I connected because we were talking one day, I think, about seed cycling and how we were both really kind of into it. And I had heard about it from naturopaths. So naturopaths obviously are like doctors trained just as heavily as medical doctors, but they use more natural medicines instead of
Mhm.
synthetic medicines mostly.
Yeah.
And I went to a
Just to
naturopath
be
because,
clear, yeah, I
yeah,
just want to say something about naturopathy, because I know that there are people who are like, oh, you go to a naturopath. Well, they can do everything a regular doctor can do. They go to full on medical school, they can write a regular
hmm,
prescription, and they will,
yep.
but
Oh yeah, I've gotten more
they choose,
Xanax
right,
from
exactly.
naturopaths
Yeah.
actually in the past when I had test anxiety back in the day. But yeah,
Well, that's
uh,
because they're not allowed to prescribe weed yet, but those days are coming. So
oh
you
yeah,
could.
right. Yeah, and we're in Oregon, so we're on
uh,
the West
can
Coast.
we say
So
yes? I was going to say we're in Oregon. It's
yeah,
legal here, folks. Anybody
yeah,
who's worried about that?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was having irregular cycles for most of my life, and I was in a time period where I was really curious about how, like, what the base cause of it was. And actually, this brings me back to a different story. I remember going to the medical doctor when I was in my 20s, and I was thinking about wanting to have a baby at some point in the nearish future. And I could, they had me on the pill. So I was like, well, I know my periods were irregular. You put me on the pill to regulate my period, which it does kind of externally, but it doesn't address whatever the reason is for why you are having irregular periods. But the OBGYN just looked at me like I had sprung a horn out of my head and was like, well, I
Hmm.
mean, if you want to regulate your periods, we put you on birth control. Like, she didn't have any other options. And so I was like, well, that's obviously, if I want to have a baby in the future, that's not going to help. Like, you're not, there's something not really connecting here between us. So that's when I really started diving it more into natural medicine, because I knew that there had to be a reason that made sense, but it wasn't going to come from the protocols through the Western medicine world. So I would see naturopaths and lots of different doctors, but that's segue to seed cycling. That's what they told me to do. So seed cycling, I'm going to let you kind of talk about what it is, because you have a little more nutrition experience, but it's basically using food as medicine. And the foods that you eat during one part of the cycle basically are the building blocks of the hormones that support that half of the cycle. And then the second half of the cycle is different foods that support the building blocks of the other part of the cycle. And the reason why we created this little seed cycle diagram, we wanted to create a beautiful graphic that was actually something you could track physically. So it's
Well, let's
we
get
created a
real.
little,
Every other one I ever saw was nigh on illegible, for one thing, and really confusing. I just could not make heads or tail of that.
confusing.
Copy of a copy of a copy of a scratch of drawing that someone did that was not very attractive. And if it's something you want to look at or need to look at every day, because I don't know about you, but I'm just like, I'd rather just have something I can be like, oh, do that today. I don't want to have to think about it too much. There are too many other things I'm already thinking about,
Yeah, and it can easily, seed cycling can become kind of overwhelming when if you have to think about it every single day. So we try to create something, because I have a background in design, so I wanted something that was beautiful and easy to use and took kind of the guesswork out of all of it. So if you could tell us a little bit about like what seed cycling actually is, and a little background into that would be awesome.
Sure. There's a famous maxim, your food is medicine, or use your food as medicine. Some old Greek or Roman guy said it, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who right now.
It was like, it might have been Socrates, maybe.
So much for my art history major. But anyway, yeah, that was money well spent.
That's okay. Let food be thy medicine. I think it was Socrates, but I'll look it up. I don't put it in the show notes.
Good, I like it. Okay, so my ignorance. Anyway, but your food is your medicine. It's this whole thing of like, oh, chicken soup when you're sick. That's an old wives' tale. But guess what? It's not. There's actually stuff in homemade chicken soup that helps relieve cold symptoms. So your booby was right. And any of the anything. So many of these old traditions are 100% accurate, as science has come along and decided to investigate them. So folk remedies do work. So often
there's a lot of wisdom there.
There is a lot of wisdom there. Which is why when you said natural medicine, I'm like, why aren't we just calling that medicine?
Right.
It is medicine. It's not
non-synthetic. Yeah,
exactly. So to that end, so many of the foods we eat have a lot of so when we talk about plant-based foods, they have phytochemicals. Phyto is just a fancy word for plant in Greek. You can say phyto if you want. I say phyto. I don't know why. I'm pretentious maybe, but that's how I learned it. So a lot of people know about soy, which is an estrogen. It affects estrogen. There's chemicals in soy. So soy is a really well-known one. So a lot of people either avoid soy or they specifically eat soy for various reasons. That's a whole other conversation we could have about soy. Believe me, that's one conversation. But soy is not the only one. It's really the best known one. But every single plant that you eat has something that's going to affect your system. So why not use it for good? So
or with intention.
Exactly, with intention. So when we talk about the cycle, we're looking at a 28-day cycle. And so I don't want people to think that means only people who get periods or menstruate. This is not a fact at all. This to me is something that anyone who passes adolescence, whether you're cisgender, male or female, no matter how you identify, your body still has a cycle. We talk about a 28-day cycle. That's an average, the same way that 98.6 is about an average. Not everyone's 98.6. That may be normal, but that's an average. So you can walk around being 97.9, which is what I usually am, and I'm still in the normal range, so the same
Yes.
with a 28-day cycle is neither right nor wrong. It is just average. But
Yes.
it is, because it's an average, it's an easy number to remember. I mean, it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. That's how, um, 2 weeks building up to having a period, 2 weeks having the period, menstruation, and then
Yeah.
the decline, and then back up again. Well, men
Yep.
have these cycles too. They have them kind of reversed. Now we're really going to get old school here, and we're going to use the moon. But this is not just anecdotal. So many of my friends and I would get our periods on or around the full moon. Why? I don't know.
And a lot do around the new moon, which the new moon is more resonant with the time,
Right.
the bleeding time. And in my experience, that's a whole other episode actually, also, like the syncing and why it happens, why it doesn't happen as much anymore, like what we actually know about it. There's so much that goes into it. It's fascinating.
Well,
But we are, one of my teachers from Brazil who teaches feminine arts healing type stuff would say, well, our females, our hormones are contagious.
They are. But that's totally true. Sure. Anyone who's ever lived in a dorm knows this. Anyone,
Right. Or like my periods, because they're irregular, will sync up to other activities or things in the external world, which I have found really fascinating when I track them. So it's just these types of things are just interesting to track and see what you're syncing up to.
Right.
But that's a whole other topic also. So back to what you were talking about.
There are so many topics that are
I know, there's so many.
centric, but
It's true.
It is true. It's totally true. You can't deny it. I'm trying not to laugh too hard. So we're just gonna. So anyway, 28-day cycle. Handy rule of thumb: the moon's never going to change. God forbid, unless there's some kind of disaster movie scenario that we don't know is happening.
Yeah.
So it is a really nice marker. Everyone hopefully can look at and identify a full moon, and everyone knows when a new moon is, because there ain't no moon in the sky to see. So those things are easy. So the way this works is, and I just want to say, one can tailor this to whatever is easiest for them. If you are a person who gets your period on a different moon than I'm talking about, switch it a little bit maybe, or
I always tell people they can follow their own cycle, so they could go from their period to ovulation time if they're aware of their body enough to know when that is. But the period's obviously very obvious, and that's day one of the cycle, the day the period starts. So you can always start there. Or if you're irregular, or maybe you're not cycling anymore, but you want this rhythm, then that's when I tell people to follow the actual moon. But you can't also really do it wrong.
Right. Or a person who doesn't get their period for some reason. Listen, there are a lot of women who have had ovaries removed or hysterectomies or things like that, or men. Or
trans women, who are people, anyone non-binary who has periods or a womb, whether they're bleeding or not, or whether they don't have periods or a womb, but they identify more with feminine energy. Now, I want to just also caveat that neither one of us are hormone doctors, and there's a lot to it. So if you have any hormonal issues, or if you're transitioning hormonally physically, then I would always refer to the doctor that's helping you with hormones, because it gets complicated really fast. But this is really good overall general advice for feminine cycles.
Right, exactly. But also we are going to talk a little bit about the masculine cycle too. And when we say masculine, we're just literally talking about a cisgender male. Vagina or not, every body is a good body, and everybody has a body. So let's just treat our bodies, nicely, right, as much as possible. Yeah. I am on day 3 of no chocolate, so if I sound a little out of it, that's why. I'm trying to treat my body better. So okay, so so this is a very gentle, easy, inexpensive way to add hormonal balance nutritionally to your diet. It's pretty simple. And we can talk about how you can incorporate these things into your diet after, but it's really not very complicated. But so what it does is it helps restore a hormone balance. And it works because the seeds that we're going to talk about are not only high in fiber, which most Americans could use more of,
Yes.
but also the seed oils contain omega fatty acids and omega 3 fatty acids, and omega 6 fatty acids. And we have to have fatty acids to help our hormones. You cannot make the things that your body needs out of 100% fast food. It's just not going to happen, or a diet of, 30 to 40% chocolate, which is me some days. So, listen, I've had a lot of stress. So
yeah, I get it. I still am working through my addiction to sugar, so I get it.
It's the monkey on the back.
Yeah.
But so all of these things, omega 3 fatty acids, omega 6 fatty acids, help your body. These are building blocks for your body's needs, right? That's what make the chemicals that we call hormones. And I want to just talk about hormones for a minute. Hormones are body substances that our bodies create that regulate the systems of our bodies. Okay.
Yes.
Now, there's also things called neurotransmitters. They are chemically identical to hormones. It just depends on where they were discovered first. If they were found in the body, people called them hormones. But if they were discovered in the brain first, they were called neurotransmitters. However, I just want to say that we have receptors all over our bodies for these substances. You've got them in your pinky finger. You've got them in your heart. They're in your pancreas. They're in your kneecap. They're all over. So they're also in your brain. Okay, so
the nervous system is literally everywhere in your body.
It is everywhere.
And that
it is everywhere.
Yeah, it's not just your brain and spinal cord. It's everything.
Well, we need to get away from this weird Western medical thought that the brain is something that rides around in the body like a driver in a car, because that's not the case at all.
We've had this obsession, I think, in our recorded history anyway, of like separating everything into little boxes. But the magic to me is kind of where those boxes interact with each other, because like we actually are more of a whole system that works together. It's not like your muscles are separate from your bones, and that's separate from your nervous system, and that's separate from your organs. It's not really how it actually functions.
And the problems happen when everything stops playing nice with each other, right?
Yes.
So So, okay. So how does this work? So now we're going to start on the new moon, which is when there's no moon in the sky. And I know you had a podcast recently that talks about how to identify the full, new, and half moon, right?
Because the moon's not always visible either. So DOC. There's episode 2 actually goes pretty into depth about that with Dina.
Yep. Yeah, that was fascinating.
That was good.
Okay, so what we're talking about now for women, we're saying from day 1 of the new moon, you would take the following, and these are rich in omega-3 fatty acids: 2 ground tablespoons of fresh raw flax seeds and 2 tablespoons of fresh raw pumpkin seeds. You can grind those or not, but the flax seeds need to be ground, or you cannot access the vital nutrients that are in there. They are really tiny. Anybody who's ever had a flax seed knows how they get stuck in your teeth or pass right through your body. So,
they're like shelled, aren't they? Basically, they're tiny, tiny little seeds, but the shell on the outside's pretty.
It's hard,
isn't it? Pretty hard.
It's hard, and it's hard to chew. It's really hard to chew. So these are, we could get into a lot of other phytochemicals. I'm not going to talk about lignans, but they're the precursors to things that we need. So they have lignans. That's, maybe you could do I don't want to talk about that. I could. I'm just saying that it's like, it just takes time. And so it really is a different, it's if you want to delve deeper into why this works, you could look at lignans. It's Lignans, lignans.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone's heard of fatty acids. That's the only reason I'm saying that. And also you would take 1,500 milligrams of a fish oil. Okay. Then from the full moon. So what we're doing on the new moon is balancing the omega-3 pathways. Okay. On the full moon, we're balancing the omega-6 pathways. I don't know why I started to say it like I was French. And so then you would have 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh raw ground sesame seeds. These have to have the shells on them, not the hulled sesame seeds. And then fresh raw sunflower seeds, no shells on the raw sunflower seeds. Don't eat those, please. And then not good. And then 500 milligrams of evening primrose oil. Now, if you're a person who already takes fish oil every day, double up on it on those 2 weeks. Okay. This is not rocket surgery. You can't, if there's one of these seeds that you can't have, you're not doing it wrong. If you don't like, if flax seeds make you sick or you're allergic to pumpkin seeds, that's okay. You can just go do the best you can. I mean, really, so much of this is do the best you can. I mean, really, just live our lives doing the best we can. That's, if you do that, you're doing okay. Like I think in so many ways. So, also, if you can't have evening primrose oil, borage oil has the same. Rich in linoleic acids and omega-6 fatty acids. Okay. So the first one, flax and pumpkin seeds support the estrogen dominant time of your cycle, and the other one supports the progesterone peak of your cycle. Now, men, you would do this the exact opposite. Recommend highly, or necessity to, get one of those cheap little coffee grinders, little hand coffee grinder, or little one of those plug-in ones. They are inexpensive, and use it for your seeds. If you already have a coffee grinder, don't use it for your seeds. You will thank me when you're putting these seeds on top of something and they don't taste like coffee. Or a spice grinder works too. We recommend you only prepare a few days ground ahead of time. You want them as fresh as possible, but if you want to do 3 or 4 days ahead, that's fine, as long as you keep the ground seeds in the fridge to keep them fresh, or freezer. That works too. We did have a question at one point. And so first of all, how do you take them, right? You're not just going to dump a couple of tablespoons of seeds in your mouth and hope for the best when you try to swallow it with a chaser of fish oil. That doesn't work, No. So you do not want to cook them. But if you like your morning oatmeal, or you like your morning avocado toast, because we live in Portland, so that's happening. Smoothie, whatever, right? You can sprinkle them on top of your morning, whatever that is. I mean, I know a lot of people who eat sauteed greens for breakfast.
Yeah.
Delicious on your sauteed greens. Really wonderful. Or if you don't want to do it in the morning, do it at night and put it on your salad, or as a topping on top of something else you're eating, or sprinkle it on top of your mashed potatoes, or what have you. Just try to do it at around the same time of day. Because you are doing this to regulate, for gentle hormone regulation. So this isn't something, and the other part of this too is, say you're one of those people who really loves pumpkin seeds or really loves sunflower seeds, and you're a baseball player and you're chewing sunflower seeds, all the time. Maybe back off on that as a snack as much, because, all means, when you scoop that pumpkin out at Thanksgiving and you want to make that big tray of pumpkin seeds and munch out on those, but this should not be a habit of eating, handfuls of sunflower and pumpkin seeds on the daily, if you're going to be doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So,
I love it.
Yeah. And also, just to say, listen, flax seeds are also high in B vitamins. We need those. Most people aren't getting enough of those, and also what we call micronutrients, which American diets are especially not getting that, which is why we're probably going to have a talk about organic food at some point for that reason, and also trace minerals of manganese and magnesium. Pumpkin seeds have lots of iron, Also, magnesium, phosphorus, and zinc. Zinc is something, if you're trying to fight off a virus, you need this. You need
Yeah.
this, okay? Also, sesame seeds, again, rich in iron, magnesium, manganese, and copper. Also, there's about 90 milligrams of calcium in 1 tablespoon of unhulled sesame seeds and 10 milligrams in the hulled seeds, right? They also have vitamin
Mm.
E and vitamin B1, really important. And then sunflower seeds also, vitamin E, linoleic acid, which is a really important essential fatty acid, amino acids, and also more magnesium, potassium, zinc, and calcium. We have to have these things.
Yeah.
You need them to make your body work. Your immune system is
Yes.
not going to work. You need them to keep your gut healthy. You need them to keep your mental processes working. So
Yeah.
please buy organic. And this is also not an expensive way. Look, okay, I get that a high quality fish oil can be expensive. All right. There are online resources that are, less expensive to buy these. If you want to do the whole thing, but if you're on a really tight budget, you don't feel like you can do the fish oil, that's okay too. We figured out that to buy a pound of each of one of these seeds organically at the local grocery stores around here in bulk was under $20. A pound of each of those seeds is going to last you so long. Like
Yeah.
that is not only months and months, that might be a year,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
flax and the sesame seeds, right? So I say store
Yeah.
them in your freezer, you know, put them in a little bag where you can make really, really tight, get all the air out, store them in your freezer. They will last, but this is not an expensive thing to do, and it's also
Yeah.
delicious. So yeah,
Yes.
right. So yeah,
Yeah.
we want things to be
I think
delicious and easy.
I think it's a really great way to become intimate with the idea that your food is your medicine and really understand. And I think it's a good entryway into really getting a body feel for that. I've told a few of my patients to do this, and I've been surprised at how, and they have too, at just how quickly and how dramatically this can change your physiology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is a simple like gateway into really understanding how deeply we are connected to our food. And to me, it's always been kind of funny because like, where do you think all the synthetic stuff comes from?
Right.
Like it gets,
Exactly.
it does get processed from all these things. So you can really go straight to the source, and you might have to educate yourself a little bit or go through a little bit of learning curve and kind of get used to it, but it's worth it. And what you learn about yourself and about how intimately you're connected to nature along the way, I think is really phenomenal and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think we're
Yeah.
all looking for a little more balance in our lives,
Yeah.
So why not get a little balance this way? It is very
Yeah.
simple. Should we mention that we actually have? Um, should we do a little advertisement for ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, we created a little dry erase board that is called Seed Cycling 101. So if you go to seedcycling101.com, we actually give away a lot of free information. Basically, all the stuff we talked about today and then a little more is on the website for free. And then if you want to actually order the dry erase board, it's just a nice little square. It's got a beautiful drawing. It has like little circles that go from moon to moon. It has a recipe on one side and the other side. So it makes it really easy to track. You can magnet to your refrigerator or you can sticky it to the wall, and it just helps you track. And then you can wipe it off in the next month and start again.
Yep. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has, the information about it is on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we're calling it, what are we calling it now?
We're calling it's Seed Cycling 101.
I
So
like
we
that.
wanted to teach
I like
people.
that.
Yeah, we wanted to teach people about how to do seed cycling in the basic way. And then the dry erase board, it doesn't have the information on the back anymore because we
Oh, that's
created the
right.
one that has the stickiness, but we do
That's
have
right.
the website that has a lot of information and then a way to contact us if you have more questions. We're always
Sure.
happy to add more information to
Mm-hmm.
that website. We really wanted to empower people more than anything else. We also do have uh, laminated versions of this. If like naturopaths or health coaches or people who teach any of this type of stuff want to order from us in bulks to give to their students, we have that available too.
Or
So you can
just
always go
order
to
one
see.
if you want a demo, you know. for
Yeah,
your
if you want
own
the demo, we
board,
can
for your
send you
office or
that.
what
Or
have
so
you.
basically, yeah. So there's the individual dry erase board, and then there's also opportunities to get the laminated ones from us as well. So anyone who's interested, feel free to contact us through seedcycling101.com. It was a little labor of love, and I know the people that I've given that to and who've used it have really, really appreciated it and liked it. So I'm pretty proud of it, and I've had a lot of fun working with you on that.
Well, I had a great time working with you on it too. It really was a labor of love. I mean, definite passion project for us, and I would just love to get the word out more about this, because your food is your medicine.
Your food is your medicine. It's very, very real.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Phil, we
well,
want to, but can we just say too, listen,
yeah,
you were talking about wanting to have a baby and stuff. It's not just about, this is really a nice way to work with your own body systems. If you are trying to have a baby or not trying to have a baby, wouldn't having more
yeah.
regular cycles be good for that too?
Oh,
Or,
yeah,
taking control
absolutely.
of maybe you're having skin issues like I had, or any of those things. This is all very helpful. It
Yep.
can help you with your sleep cycles too, because your hormones affect those.
Anything
So
that's
yeah,
yeah, anything that your hormones affect, which is everything,
right,
um,
exactly,
this this can help you just balance it out.
exactly.
So, I think it's yeah, and we eat food anyway.
Why
So,
not? Why
I'm always
not?
like, "Why
Yeah,
don't we just be a little bit intentional about it and take
yeah.
a little bit of that power back?" And there's a lot there really is
Okay,
a lot we can
but
do.
I'm just saying you're doing it wrong if you buy the seeds, grind them up, and sprinkle them on your McDonald's. Okay, that's not
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
It might be
not
the tiniest little
That's
baby
not how
step,
to do
but
it.
it's
But
not
okay,
really
but if that's you, you do you, and kudos to
Yeah.
starting to take control. Kudos to you.
Yeah. 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 I know. We
Sorry.
gotta start somewhere.
Don't at me. Sorry, don't all you McDonald's lovers.
Don't at
Yeah.
me. No. Yeah, well, I think it's pretty fair to rip on McDonald's, and, I mean, I know a lot of people feel like they need to use fast food out of necessity, and I've been there. I mean,
Sure. Sure.
I did all of my undergrad actually while I was working a corporate job, so I was doing, like, 40, 50 hours a week and
Yeah.
then doing 12 to 15. One quarter I did 17 credits all at the same time, and I basically ate out of vending machines. So
Mm,
no wonder my hormones were all over the place. I didn't
yeah.
understand at the time like how I was contributing to my own health issues.
Right.
And so stress affects these things, what you eat, all that stuff. But seed cycling is a good way to just create a gentle hormone balance and kind of help your body get into a place where it can do a better job
Yep.
healing itself is really essentially what it is.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. This was a great conversation. I think people are going to learn so
I
much.
hope so. It was great.
Why don't you tell people how they can find you
Well,
if they need more information?
if anyone is interested in body products, I do make them custom for people. I do have, I will say, a kick-ass body butter that is.
Mona is amazing at making like body butters and salves and all that kind of
Well,
stuff,
I
I
do
have to say.
make things for our mutual friend Shara.
Hmm.
She has called me. I hope she doesn't mind me saying this. Her skincare angel.
Hmm. Oh,
I
yeah.
know.
I
Yeah,
know.
I still am very tickled by that. It makes me so happy. But yeah. I do still have my makeup website up. I don't do that very much anymore, but I do occasionally do it when friends like Danielle get in touch with me.
Hmm.
And so that is
Yep.
at monabowen.com. And I have an
Hmm.
email there, mona@monabowen.com, MONABOWEN. What else do I
Perfect.
do? Yeah, that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. Yeah, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about skincare issues or makeup or products, or that is one of my passions, or nutrition, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's all related.
it's all related.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You can find show notes at vitalvagina.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and share with your friends. We'll be back next week with another episode.